My name's Jose Madera, and I'm the director of the Pasadena Community Job Center, and I'm a strong advocate and volunteer with the Pasadena for Rent Control and Just Cause Evictions campaign.
Can you describe how you were active with the campaign?
In the beginning of the year, we at the Pasadena Community Job Center, we had a few actions that we had. We had a big march where we got our members of the center, but also community allies to march through the streets of Pasadena, where we march again around Villa Park, the Madison community, and we marched to Robinson Park, where we had music. We had a bunch of community members come out and just voice our strong, fight for rent control.
Why is rent control important to the Latino community?
For me, I'm born and raised here in Pasadena, so I've lived here all my life. A lot of my family lives here. My family's from Mexico. They immigrated here, and set their life here. They've worked here. They've built their family here, and throughout the years, I've been noticing a lot of change. A lot of the, folks who have been kicked out or have needed to move out because of high rent control or high rent. So I've seen a lot of the change that's happened throughout the years, and I've been me and my family have been very involved in the community. We basically at Villa Park, that's where I grew up. I played soccer there. I played baseball there. I went to the camps there. A lot of my friends also went there, and now seeing it, you can see the different change, the different type of culture that's there, different type of people that are there, because many of the people that have lived there for generations have been pushed out due to high rent. So my family has also seen the change, the different stores that they've gone, that they grew up with, has been changing. And like I said, a lot of my family has lived here in Pasadena for years, for decades, and some of them have had to move because of high rent. Pasadena has a rich history of Black and brown families living here for generations. Rich history in food and the music and the art that makes Pasadena, but a lot of that has been changing, and in a way it's been taken away from Pasadena, and it's something again that can be done if the voters vote for it in the next elections, where we can keep and preserve the culture of Pasadena for generations to come.
What rebuttals do you have for common arguments against rent control?
A lot of our workers at the Pasadena Community Job Center, they hear from their landlords that rent control does not work. They always say when our workers were part of the campaign, getting signatures from their neighbors and the surrounding communities, the landlords would tell them and it doesn't work. But we know, looking at different cases, looking at different cities, that it does work, that it helps renters tremendously. Looking at the research and the studies, not just physically but also mentally, because there's so much stress that comes out from trying to pay rent. A lot of people work from sun up to sundown to provide for their families and to provide food and to have a roof on top of their head. They hear that there's some hope or something that's being done to support them, for them to stay where they've been living for decades and generations.
Could you describe a couple of stories of people you know that have been evicted or moved out of Pasadena because they can't afford to live here anymore?
So at the Pasadena Community Job Center, we have many stories of workers who have been members of the center for years. The center has been there for 22 years here in Pasadena, and many workers have been there since the beginning and still come now. There's one worker who is very involved within the center, not just to get work at the center, but also they volunteer with the different things that we do. But a few years ago, he had to move because of the high rent that was in Pasadena. And it's very hard for him, and he's spoken many times how hard it was for him to move, because again, he had lived here for many years. His kids went to the schools here, again, the Pasadena Job Center was his second home. And now he has to travel all the way from Duarte, which he had to move to Duarte to because of the rent here in Pasadena, but he still comes to Pasadena. This is where he built his network of clients. This is where he built his friends, where he has many of his friends still living here. But now he has to travel every day from Duarte to Pasadena to come look for work, to talk to his friends, and to volunteer here at the Pasadena Job Center. Something also that has been affecting a lot of the Pasadena community in these past years, that has to do with rent control and high rent, is the school district, right? There's a few schools that have closed because of the low enrollment in the school. So the district had to close three schools in the past few years. And these are historical schools that many families have gone, they have attended these schools for generations, and now they had to be closed. And there's a lot of things that affect a family when a school is closed. One, again, their child cannot go to that school. Now they have to go to another school, and now the family has to plan different ways to how they're going to take their child to that school. They have to plan different ways and how they get to work. And there's just so many things that happen when a school closes. Um, I used to work at Adelante Youth Alliance, which is a nonprofit here in Pasadena, and every year we would have after-school programs to support children, to get in, have activities for them, and do college and career workshops for them. Every year there is about a few set of kids. When we would tell them, "Oh, we'll see you next year," many would respond, "Oh, I'm moving." And we would see and we would talk to the parent, and most of the many of those times that people had to move was because they needed to move because of high rent. They found lower rent at other cities, Azusa, Duarte, and they had to move. So you can see the trauma and the stress that causes to a student, because again, they have all their friends here in Pasadena. They're excited to move on to the next grade, the next level, but then now they have to move because they can't afford to live here. And you can see the burden then that puts in the family, the stress, the trauma that puts in the family, to uproot them, uproot their whole family, again, where they work here in Pasadena, they go to school here in Pasadena, their whole families here in Pasadena, their whole communities here in Pasadena, but now they're uprooted because of high rent, and they have to move to surrounding communities. So that's something that we see basically every year, and again, that's the big trauma that families go through.
How can others get involved in this campaign?
So there's many ways that many people can get involved. I think the campaign organizers have done a great job in organizing phone banking, flyering, all the information and flyers that have been put out are great ways to outreach to folks. But I think also another way that a lot of the community here in Pasadena, I think the community here in Pasadena has created many great networks throughout the years. There's many community hubs, and it doesn't have to be something big. It could be just going to a taco stand in the corner, and where you talk to a neighbor, where you talk to just a person there, like, "Hey, do you know about rent control? Do you know about the campaign?" So more people are aware of what's going on. And again, there's so many community hubs. It can also be just a laundromat where people can just talk about rent control. Hey, how does rent control affect you? Have you had any situations or that you know of evictions, or where people had to move because of high rent? Again, people can just talk to their neighbors, so we can get more people part of the campaign. We can do more outreach, and more people can vote for rent control in the next elections.